With the NFL Top 100 continuously being unveiled as I release this video, it's blatantly obvious there are some very underrated players in the NFL. I'm not going to criticize their rankings all that much because as we know, they simply are not good rankings. What I will be doing in today's video though, is going through them and state which players are way too low and state why they deserve to be higher. Some players, don't ask me how, weren't even in the top 100 after having good 2019 seasons, yet other players make it off of name alone. But before we get started on who is very underrated, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel as all support is very much appreciated. Now let's begin. And we start today's video off with Harrison Smith of the Minnesota Vikings. As most of you guys know, I am a Vikings fan and have been since I started watching football. Harrison was drafted in 2012 and has been disrespected, or in the rare case respect is shown, then very underappreciated by the media for his entire career. He was ranked 64th behind some other players who, let's just say, didn't have as good of a 2019 as Harrison did. He is a 5-time Pro Bowler and a 2-time All-Pro, and I would personally argue in 2017 specifically, not 2018 to be 100% clear, Harrison deserved the Defensive Player of the Year award over Aaron Donald. Now that's obvious bias from myself being both a Vikings fan and a Harrison fan, and I admit that, but his 2017 season was highest among safeties in Pro Football Focus history. That year, he was ranked 46th on the top 100 despite being a first-team All-Pro player and the best defensive player on a 13-3 team. He should have been top 25 that year at minimum, but was not, and here we are 2 years later and it's much of the same. Harrison has been, I wouldn't say disrespected, but undervalued and underappreciated since 2012 by the NFL media. Vikings fans, we know how good he is and how nice it's been for nearly the past decade, and with him being 31 years old, it does sadden me we won't have him forever, at least not at this level. One statistic I did want to show you guys, as you'll see on the screen right now, is how he compares to 2020 Hall of Fame safety Troy Polamalu. Harrison, as you can see, has him beat in everything with the exception of interceptions and forced fumbles, and tied in a few others. My point is, with Harrison at least, he didn't have a good 2019 go unrecognized by the media. He's had an elite Hall of Fame caliber career go nearly unrecognized by the media. And Harrison is a very quiet, reserved guy and would never speak out and lash out and say he deserves this or that. It's just not his style. But Harrison Smith has been very underrated for quite some time now, and I made sure he was a part of today's video, and rightfully so. And next is Panthers receiver DJ Moore. DJ wasn't ranked in the top 100 players of 2020, despite being an 87-catch, nearly 1,200-yard receiver, with Kyle Allen throwing them for the majority of the season. Moore plays in an absolutely loaded division of receivers, with players like Julio Jones, Michael Thomas, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin all in the NFC South. With players like that, and while playing on a team that doesn't, or didn't in 2019 at least, get a lot of national attention because of the lack of success, it's easy to see why DJ gets almost forgotten about. He put up very good numbers in 2019 and finished 15th in receptions and 9th in yards, and what's crazy about this is he is arguably the 5th best receiver in his own division. While I would like DJ to get respect, I don't think there's any case for him to be above Julio, Michael Thomas, or Mike Evans yet, and I don't know how successfully, but the Chris Godwin argument is there. Anyways, DJ puts up numbers and is very rarely talked about because of his teammate Christian McCaffrey getting a lot of, and rightfully so, the love from fans. DJ outproduced Odell Beckham by a significant margin in 2019 receptions and yards wise, as he had 11 more catches and 140 more yards than he did, and we know what type of respect Odell gets. And by the way guys, whenever I compare statistics like this, it's to show how good the first player is, more so than to degrade or criticize the second player. Odell is a multiple time Pro Bowl receiver for a reason, and hopefully DJ soon becomes one. He will have Teddy Bridgewater throwing to him in 2020, and Teddy should be a significant upgrade to what Kyle Allen was in 2019. Expect much of the same from DJ in 2020, except this time around, more recognition. And this doesn't concern me with a new quarterback without preseason games, because they will have all of camp to get right, and if DJ can put up Pro Bowl caliber numbers with Kyle Allen, then I think he can with Teddy Bridgewater. DJ is very underrated, and I hope a takeaway from this video is DJ is a great NFL receiver. Another receiver is next, and it's Chargers receiver Keenan Allen. Keenan has over 100 receptions in 2 of the last 3 seasons, and had 97 in the only one he didn't have 100. And over the past 3 years, Keenan has over 300 receptions, nearly 3,800 receiving yards, and 18 receiving touchdowns. With a player like Allen in a fan interest level like Los Angeles, he is easy to be forgotten. With so many professional teams in Los Angeles and the Chargers not being all that relevant in the past 3 years with how good Kansas City has been, it's no wonder why Allen has flown under the radar. He was ranked number 77 in the NFL Top 100 this year, and while I don't agree with him lashing out on Twitter, I do think he was ranked a tad low. It will be a real challenge for him to produce this year, the same way he has for the past 3 because of the uncertainty at quarterback, but he has the talent to do so. While he didn't have the greatest start to his career as he fell in the 2013 draft due to a 4.7 40 prior to the draft, he has more than made up for it. Allen has put up over 500 receptions, over 6,000 yards, and over 30 touchdowns in his career. He is a 3-time Pro Bowler, and hopefully for his sake, he can keep the production up over the next 5 to 6 years because it's very possible, if he stays healthy of course, he could end up with 900 or 1,000 receptions and over 11 or 12,000 yards, which wouldn't be bad production from a former 3rd-round pick. And lastly, Allen has more receptions over the past 3 years than players like Julio Jones and Mike Evans. And next we head to Baltimore to discuss Marlon Humphrey of the Ravens. Marlon is a great corner and a lot of people simply don't know about him. When a team has a player like a Lamar Jackson who is the MVP of the league and one of the most exciting and young players in the NFL, then a lot of the players tend to get overlooked. Marlon isn't the only underrated player in the Ravens roster, as this team had 12 Pro Bowlers, and while they get recognized in that manner, their talents aren't truly shown for how good they are. In 2019, Marlon was a first-team All-Pro, and while he did receive some recognition, he was somehow ranked just 86th in the top 100. This doesn't just apply for Marlon, but anytime a player is a first-team All-Pro player, I think they should rank in at minimum the top 40 or at 45 maximum. They were selected as one of the top 22 players in the league, and another thing I've never understood is how the players rank these lists. Anyway, in 2019, Marlon held Odell Beckham to a 7-target, 2-catch, 20-yard performance in Week 4, which were all career lows for Odell, and he had the highest coverage grade in 2019 among corners from the 2017 draft class. Marlon has received recognition from the media, but to be ranked 86th by his peers is extremely low for a player of his caliber, and personally, when I speak with people about corners, I generally don't hear his name called. The Ravens had a magical 2019 season, and as much as Lamar was the centerpiece of that script, Marlon had a big supporting role. He locked down receivers week in and week out, and was a big reason why the Ravens secondary was so good. Humphrey also added 2 defensive touchdowns to add to his incredible year. And we wrap today's video up in the Music City to discuss wide receiver A.J. Brown. A.J. was somehow left off of the NFL Top 100 list despite being the best receiver on a team that made it to the AFC Championship game. He had an outstanding rookie season as he capped it off with over 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns, and averaged over 20 yards per catch. He is just 23 years old, and assuming Ryan Tannehill can play at the level he did last season again for the next couple of years, then there's no reason AJ can't consistently be a 1,000-yard receiver or do something similar to what Mike Evans did, which was start his career off with 6 straight 1,000-yard years. Now, obviously, a big part of a receiver's production is quarterback play, and oftentimes, though, not always, they need above-average quarterbacks to put up good numbers, and down the stretch of the 2019 season, Ryan Tannehill was playing at an elite top 5 level, as in weeks 8 through 17, he had 20 touchdown passes and over 2,200 yards, which for a full 16-game season translates to over 4,000 yards and a 36 touchdown to 7 interception ratio. If you are a big football fan, then you know just how impressive that is. And in weeks 9 through 17, AJ had 4 100-yard games and had over 700 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns. For a full 16-game season, that would equate to a 1,400-yard, 10-touchdown season, which, if he does that this year, would surely put him in the Pro Bowl, and he would be in serious consideration for an All-Pro. AJ will be in a good division for receivers, as the corners he will have the opportunity to go against 6 times per year simply aren't that good. And CJ Henderson could be very good, or even elite in a year or two, but I don't expect that in year 1. Corners generally take longer to develop than most other positions. Anyways, AJ is in a prime position to have a fantastic second season, and if him and Ryan can pick up where they left off, then the sky truly is the limit for them. And that's all I have for today's video. Some other candidates for today's video, but are not limited to: Mark Andrews of the Ravens, who was somehow left off the top 100, Eric Kendricks of the Vikings, who is a first-team All-Pro player in 2019. I wanted to include him, but I spent a lot of time talking about Harrison, and I didn't want to make this a Vikings-only video, but both Kendricks and safety Anthony Harris are severely underrated. Other players include Michael Gallup of the Cowboys, who honestly just seems forgotten about at times, and Courtland Sutton of the Broncos. Sutton made the Pro Bowl in 2019 after an 1,100-yard year and looks to be in a great situation for his future. There are several more underrated players I could go on about, so I'll throw two last ones in, and it's Allen Robinson of the Bears and Kenny Golladay of the Lions. Golladay led the league in receiving touchdowns in 2019, with David Blau throwing to him for half the year, and that's extremely impressive in itself. While the NFC North isn't the NFC South in terms of receivers, they certainly aren't bad in their own rights, and I think it's fair to say the NFC North has the second best division of receivers in football. And now, with that being said, that's all I have for today's video. If you ever have a video suggestion, as always, drop it in the comments below, and if you're still watching, I greatly appreciate the time I had here today. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day.